Bomba-dee-da, 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 bomba-dee-da,
Hey,
Welcome again. Here we are.
we
Happy
are,
trails.
we're here. Happy trails. We are here. We're here again.
And so are you, because you're
And
listening.
you know what? You are watching. You're here as well. Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here to Happy Trails. See, Blaine makes all the cool stuff behind his head.
Yep.
I'm in Washington, Missouri this weekend, just outside of St. Louis. And this is what you get to look at as I'm in my little I don't know, it's a hotel room, but it's really small. So
Oh, you're in a hotel room. You got a subway tile behind you.
if you saw this
A
place, dude,
microwave.
it took me 5 minutes to find the toilet. I didn't know where it was. I'm like, where's the toilet?
Well, I'm glad you found it.
The
Thank
shower's
goodness
at
for
one end,
that.
the sink's at one end, and I'm like, listen, between the shower and the sink, I'm good for a little bit. Thank God we found it.
Thank
How's
goodness.
everybody doing?
Right on. Hope you guys are doing well and enjoying summertime. We're summer's rolling right along, man. August is coming right up.
Yes, it is. Can you believe school's about to get back in here in just a couple weeks?
I know.
I think we're 2 or 3 weeks and the kids are back at school.
Yeah. Everything, all the stores have all the back to school stuff. There's like a ton of pencils out there, boys, girls. Ton of pencils.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for telling me that, Blaine. It's nice to know.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Matt Bynum. I'm a practicing dentist and lives in Simpsonville, South Carolina. Been practicing somewhere around 29 years and in the same location for 27. And the reason for us developing Happy Trails podcast is Blaine and I have been together. We've been friends for over 30 years. And as we've consulted with each other along our journey of dental practice, we get to the end of it.
And life.
And
And
life.
life, Matt. Yeah.
And life
Not just
too,
dental practice.
because we're friends and we're friends like
Yeah.
that. And we get to the end of our practice lives and we're both kind of sitting there going, what's your retirement look like? And all the things that we were fed that we needed to do, we did. And at the end of this career, we're kind of sitting there thinking, I think we're going to need a little bit more money. So
Yeah. Didn't seem to the nest egg was
yeah,
more like
wasn't quite there.
a robin egg and from
egg.
robins as opposed to say an ostrich egg.
Well, tell us about the robin anyway.
Well, that's where I live. I live in the town of Robbins, where the robin was invented.
Yes, it was. And your name is?
My name is Blaine McLaughlin.
There you go.
And yeah, I've been at the same office 28 years.
Yes, you
so
have.
Longer than you. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have.
How about that?
That's right.
So, but yeah, we're working on learning about real estate and sharing it with you guys, so you guys can come along and well, today on Happy Trails, we're going to talk a little bit about our mentor, Brad Sumrok, and we're going to kind of reiterate some of the reasons why we got into real estate investing again, just so you know, if you haven't heard all of our podcasts. I mean, can't imagine you wouldn't want to listen to all of them, but if you haven't, we'll go into benefits of real estate, and like I said, our one of our teachers, Brad Sumrok, was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal. And so recently, and so it's a kind of an interesting deal. Now, we didn't actually get to read the article, but Brad was on a webinar the other night and talked a little bit about it. So we thought we'd share that a little bit.
Yeah, and then I think we can jump into a couple other things. I want to give some updates to some of the properties that we're working with and what's going on with those. Just some challenges that are being met in the industry. So anyway, we'll give some updates to some of the properties, some of the challenges that I think we're facing, because I think it's affecting some of the way that people are thinking about their investing. I know that I am currently in with one property just outside of Dallas with a couple great guys, a couple main partners, and really excited to be a part of their group. And some of my investors that I've contacted are a little skittish, a little concerned about just the market they're being scared, the election, all this stuff, Trump almost assassinated, and the change in the presidency is saying I'm not going to run for president. I'm not necessarily ready to or fit to, but I guess I'll stay in the Oval Office for another 4 months because I'm fit to do that, I guess, which is
Yeah, that's a little odd, but
questionable. But I mean, there's a lot of ambiguity. Without getting too political, there's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of concern. What's going to happen? And I understand that. And Blaine understands that. Just what we're hearing from all the people that we look up to, those that have acquired wealth, those that continue to grow wealth, they're saying something different. So I've always figured in this market, what we've seen is when the natural reaction is to pull away and contract, those that are making millions and billions are the ones that move forward. And this is one of those times. It's kind of like when COVID hit, everybody freaked out. And COVID during that time period, and there were more millionaires made during the COVID period than there was in any other time period of history. So people all of a sudden became millionaires and billionaires in a time where people weren't working. How'd they do that? Well, they put their nose to the grindstone and they went after it, and they went after their side hustles, and they realized they don't need to be on the job. They can do their things from home. They can do a lot of things beyond just their traditional job, which is why the whole nation completely changed with what jobs are today. That's why more people stay at home.
mm-hmm.
They're not in their offices anymore. They're working from home. They're not around people. Well, that's a totally different thing that we can get off on the effect. But either way, there's a lot of that's happening, and there's some people that are skittish about that whole thing, except the ones that are moving forward and creating the wealth. So if there's anything that I'm going to end with today, it's going to be some elaboration on that. But first, let's jump into the Wall Street Journal with Sumrok. He's one of our mentors, and certainly we began to learn our system from him and those in his system. We've been involved with it now for 3 years. And all the information that he disseminates and the speakers that he brings in, we've taken to heart and really followed. Those are the likes of Kiyosaki, the real estate guys that are syndicated on their podcast. I mean, their information is fantastic. Tom Wheelwright, CPA for Brad and for Robert Kiyosaki. Just a lot of people that come on board besides just Brad are all saying similar things, which are contrary to the way people are thinking. So Wall Street Journal called Sumrok and said, we're going to do a piece on multifamily real estate. We've tracked your system. We know that you have students and you've been teaching this for 17 years. Your track record seems to be good, but this market seems to be falling apart, and some of the people are not happy with where it is. And we're going to write a piece on this, and it's not going to be favorable to you. They told him that. And they wanted to do a phone interview with him. And Brad said, I'll tell you what, I'll fly up there and meet with you face to face, which I love, by the way, Blaine.
Yeah, that was great.
He said, I'm going to meet you there. I'm like, hell yeah, put that plane to use, fly your ass up there, and let's have a face to face talk. Because there's nothing better than sitting down in front of somebody to talk grievances or have a conversation with, because body language tells a lot, posture tells a lot. It's not just words. And I love that he did that. Yeah, you like that?
No, that was great. I think it gives him a lot of credibility, right? I mean, he's like, I'm not backing down from this. I'm going to do this. And he had some people telling him, don't do the interview, don't do it. And other people like, yes, this is the time to do it. I mean, so he's getting advice from both sides. And I love the face-to-face thing and I think they respected that a lot.
Yeah.
From what I was understanding. And you said, you're talking about body posture and body language and stuff like that. And you're sitting up straight now. When I say posture, Matt's sitting up straight. But otherwise he's all hunched over. Anyway, I think you taught me this years ago, Matt. We were talking about how we can influence our patients.
Yep.
And how we can get our message across to our dental patients. And 40% of what people hear, or 40% of your conversation, are words. The other 60% is body language, what you do with your eyes, how you hold your head, your posture, sit up straight, that kind of stuff. whether your arms are crossed or down, on the table, and how you hold your hands. And that's all, that's all I think we all unconsciously pick up on that, and we just don't know it. And we think a conversation is words. And that's why texting really can get out of hand, or you email back and forth when you're having a conflict with somebody, and it a lot of times it doesn't work, and that's why. And so I always found that fascinating when he said that. That's the first thing came to my head. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of communication that you on a phone interview you're just not going to get. So
Yeah. Have you ever had a text go wrong that you send to somebody and you're like, how the hell did that blow up? And then you go back
yeah.
and realize that the word that you put in there wasn't the word that you wanted to put in there, and it was totally misinterpreted. Next thing you know, you're trying to have this conversation and someone's pissed off and it makes no sense. And that's
Right.
exactly what I think Brad went out to confront when he sat down with the Wall Street Journal people. They told him it was going to be a hit piece. They told him it wasn't going to be favorable, and he sat down and the article actually wasn't as bad as it didn't turn out as bad as what it could have for sure. It was still it was decent, but it was still trying to gear at the fact that some people have lost money. There's been capital calls on properties that are going on right now. It's not the heyday when people hit their big money in multifamily, 3 years ago when they cashed in. If they got in 3 years ago, then this money now is a little bit different than it was cashing out 3 years ago, simply because the rates changed. The interest rates changed. It screwed everything up, sent everybody into a tailspin. And, they took out loans that were variable, and they started out at, 5%, and people really excited, maybe even some below 5%. And next thing you know, they're jumping up and they're in 8 and 10. And, people are like, oh crap, now what? Because we didn't count on that. We don't have the reserves to pay for that. So now we're at a stage where 3 years in, people are having to sell their properties. And the Wall Street Journal caught a hold of that. Obviously, they wrote a piece on the guy who defaulted on 3 or 4 properties, and
it's like 2,000 to 3,000 units.
Yep, cost his investors tons of money, millions of dollars in Houston. Obviously, they wrote that piece when it first came out, so they were already on target to let's just elaborate on that. And I think Brad did a great job of coiling that down. And what he did is he put some of his students in front of the Wall Street Journal reporters, and some of his students have done very, very well. And I think he put 4 students in front of him, and they interviewed those students for over an hour. So what turned out to be an hour interview for just Brad turned into a 4-hour interview with Brad face to face, and over an hour interview for each of his students that they interviewed. And each one of them had good things to say. There was a couple there. I think there was one student that said they did have a hard time, but they learned from the lessons, and it's not the teachings that Brad put together. It was a risk that they took. They didn't calculate for it. And, they moved on. So I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later with some of the properties and the calculated risks that you go through when you're doing this kind of investing. And I think it makes sense. But what else do you say, Blaine, that caught your attention?
Well, the other thing that kind of struck me is, they came to him because he's the leader, right? And so a lot of people are trying to blame him, right? If things aren't going well, they're trying to blame him. And he's like, well, he goes, I'm here to teach, but I can't control everything, right? And it's kind of like we go through Iowa dental school. Well, if we go through dental school and then we go out in the world and we do some dentistry and we mess something up, is that the dental school's fault? No, that's our fault. And so Brad is like, you can blame me if you want, but I'm teaching people stuff. And if they screwed up, why is it my fault? I can't control them. It's, they don't blame the dental school for when the dentist messes up.
Good point.
And I'm like, well, that's actually a pretty good point, So, he's been taking a lot of heat and, from some people, and he's like, I knew it was coming because you're successful when people start to hate you.
Yep.
And that's
true.
And that's tough to get over. And so I'm sure that there's some people that just despise this podcast.
I know that.
And so that means we are becoming popular and we're becoming influential. and awesome.
It takes big shoulders sometimes to carry the load for everybody trying to pile on you. You know, there you go. Huge, Blaine. That tennis is making your shoulders big.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm gonna go biking later today, so that'll really crank my shoulders out.
That's
You
good.
know,
I should do that. So that's
get
actually
those deltoids. Yeah,
good. But yeah, so I think all in all, I think you know, what the juice from what Brad put into the article was very simply, it is a great time to move into multifamily right now.
yeah.
Grant Cardone, all the bigger names, Kiyosaki's, all the other names that are brought up into the podcast that we listen to, that these guys particularly pay attention to as well. They're big, heavy investors, BlackRock, all the big names that are taking over. They're all going after it right now. So the question would be, if the big people are doing it, then why aren't more people getting involved in this type of real estate? And I think it's just fear. People are scared about what's going to happen in the future. You know, what happens with the election, what happens with this, what happens with that. Well, all I know is you can control what you can control right now, right? And the best time to invest in any kind of investment, especially in multifamily, is yesterday, and the best time you can do it and after that is now. So if you don't get off the bench, you're never going to get in the game. And that's the whole thing. And I think there's different levels, you know. So I'm gonna give you an example of Cooks Creek, the one that's outside of Dallas that Michael Roeder and Dan Breesy are putting together. And I'm involved with that particular group. So this is a Class C property, and I had a great conversation. I was talking with Chris and Maricela last night, which we know from the Sumrok episode. Well, so we're down here for a friend's birthday party that we met through Cardone, and we're gonna have a good time today. We had a good time last night, but we were sitting there talking, and the same thing. We talked about the article, but we also talked about this particular property. And Chris told me, he goes, "Man, I was on the edge. I wanted in on that property so bad." But they've set criteria down, like you should. I think you should, depending upon what your investment schedule is going to be and what your parameters are. And they did not go forward with this property, even though everything looked good with it, because it was I think it was a 1965 build. So they know that it's a Class C property, 1965. They know that it's going to have stuff coming up that's going to need attention. Obviously, it's quite old, but it's been rehabbed once before. Dan and Mike do a great job of rehabbing now. And that was the only reason why Chris and Marcella didn't get in this property. So it was great having the conversation, because in my evaluation of the property, you know, obviously we talked about this last podcast. We talked about assets, income from the apartment complexes, plus any little peripheral stuff, minus the expenses, gives us the net operating income. So the net operating income divided by the cap rate, which is right now, we guess it at what, 6, 5.5, whatever we want. When I throw that into the formula, what an apartment complex that is purchased for 28 million, the value on the property is 40 million. So they're taking I don't know, what's the percentage hit on that? I mean, that's almost, so that's got to be 40%. For taking a 40% hit off the top. Why would a seller want to sell a property at 40% loss or 38% loss? Well, quite simply, the answer is because they have to. They have other properties that they need money for. They have other properties they need capital for, or the loan is coming due and they don't have the money, so they need to sell it. And this is a time where people are buying complexes and investing in this type of real estate for that very same reason. Is the upside to a lot of these properties is huge. So you take a property that's valued at 40, you buy it for 28. And in this particular property, what's really interesting is there are 4 apartment complexes surrounding this one apartment complex. It's a little bit older. The rents on all of those properties are about $200 more than this particular one, Cooks Creek. It's sitting in the middle of the 4. All 5 properties are 98% occupied. That means they're pretty much full. Every complex is full. So what happens?
Submarket's good.
So what do you say if you're in the middle of those 5 complexes like Cooks Creek is, and you do a rent bump at $200 right away when you take over the property? You don't even do any CapEx. meaning you don't do any improvements at all on the property. You buy it for less. You turn around, you raise the rents $200 because the rents are lower than they should be given the entire area. You know what that value goes up to be?
A
For
lot.
like $4.8 million. So if you did nothing and raised the rent $200, the value of the property goes up from 40 to 44.8 million. And you bought it for 28. Now you tell me, do you guys see upside with something like that you could turn around and sell? Not even putting paint, not even changing a kitchen, not even changing the floors, nothing. You can do that right away. So then you do some value add on top of that, where you add paint, you change the carpet if there's still carpet. I doubt there is now. Change the hardwood floor, some stainless appliances instead of black or white appliances. You just some little things like that. All of a sudden, the value of those apartments to the people living there, well, you know what? That might be worth a $200 bump that you're raising it to. But regardless, if the rate is supposed to be $200 more and that's what's bringing it to market, then that's what everybody's going to do. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. No, that's
So,
that's what we're taught, and that's you
and
got to
this
find
is
these diamonds in a rough.
and this is one of those properties that sitting down using the evaluation terms and formulas that we've learned both in Sumrok and in Cardone, looking at the properties, knowing that what's ahead of you to be able to do that. I'm gathering investors for this project, and we're going to close it out probably in the next 2 weeks. And the problem people are saying is, oh, I don't know, I'm a little concerned about putting my money anywhere right now. And I'm like, but where's your money now? Your money somewhere was not doing anything. So if all I can show you is upside on this property, what are the chances that we're going to lose money on this property? I mean, I don't even see that happening, especially because I know Dan and Mike, and their track history is awesome. Their group, what is their group? Granite Towers, I think.
Granite Towers, yeah, Granite Towers
And
Equity.
they just, man, their track record's so good. I love these guys. I love their family values. I love their business model. I've watched their history for the last 3 years. And they have a track record of taking properties like this, modifying and turning around and selling them in about 3 years. So when you sell in 3 years, that means all your investors are making money instead of 5 years, they're making money in 3 years. So I love that. I love that. I love the way that works. I think it's a great investment. It's kind of an easy entry investment. I think their particular investment entry is only 60,000, whereas most apartments that you get into now, they're 100. So
75 to 100, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think it's a little bit lower entry for people to start their investing potential. And for me, that's what I'm trying to explain to everybody is, listen, if you can get in for 60 where you're normally going to get in for 100, the property is cash flowing right now, meaning it's already making money right now at the low rent level. So just a rent bump, let's say you rent bumped it in half, you raise the value by over 2 million. I don't know, that's crazy to me. Like, people don't understand how fast that moves. And if we went in and raised the rents $100, I bet nobody would even know the difference. They'd have to write the number different on their check, but I bet $100 probably isn't going to have a great effect on the people there. So you go in and start to build a community inside of that with upgrades and upfitting and things like that. Everybody rallies around it, and that's a great thing. That's the philanthropic part of, the multifamily space, is being able to give back to people and help them with their housing, help them with their communities, help them with their families. And those are things you take pride in. Those are cool things. That's the side of multifamily that nobody talks about. But truthfully, if you like helping people and you're in a position to do so, that's kind of where you step back and go, man, we're doing good things. This isn't all about money. It's about money and helping other people. And somehow when you help other people, money just comes with it. And I don't know what your belief system is, but Blaine and I have talked about belief system from the beginning. You got to think differently than a lot of people. And obviously this is one of those cases. So thoughts on that?
No, everything you said there. They don't talk about the fact that you're helping people. Most people think it's a money thing, and that's one of the treats that we kind of fell into when we started doing these, getting involved in these investments and getting reports and seeing what's being done, and they're like, oh, they're having picnics, and I'm like, really, picnics? You're putting on a picnic for the people that live there? I've never been in an apartment that was anywhere like that. I mean, I've lived in multiple apartment complexes through school, and I mean, it was, you never got anything like that. So I think that's pretty cool. And these are most of the people that work there are hardworking working class people. And it's hard to the gap between owning a house or buying a house and renting an apartment is so big now,
Huge.
bigger than it's ever been. It's huge. There's the down payment and the monthly payment and stuff like that. All these working class people can't afford that, but they still want a home. They don't want a place to live. They want a home, right? And that's different. And when you can create that community feel, it's pretty cool. It's very cool.
Now, another thing I'd be concerned with in a property, and when I'm evaluating it, and you as well, Blaine, is what are the terms that you're getting the note at, the loan at? What's your lender offering? So, and how difficult is it to get money from your lender? What type of loan are you getting? What kind of rate are you getting? What kind of term are you getting? Is it interest only for the first 3 years? What is it? Is the interest rate low? Is it high? In this particular instance, they've secured a low percentage fixed rate note with interest only, I think, for the first 2 years. And Blaine, it's like they got the note at like 6%, dude. I just never, I'm just sitting there going, guys, I'm telling you what the rate is. It's fixed. Again, pile that in combination with value add and where we're acquiring the property and what the value is. This is really a no-brainer. And I don't know how to. Sometimes when you're talking to people and they're so adamant about the state of affairs of fear, you can't talk somebody out of fear. My job as an investor and as somebody that's bringing people to the investment is not to coerce them or trick them or hide anything. My
right.
Say, hey, I have my money in this. Do as I do. Let's walk through what I'm seeing. Let's walk through what you're seeing, and you point out to me the things that you think are going to be detrimental, and I'll talk to those points, because I think given everything in the parameters of this complex, the only thing that would be a downfall, as Chris and Marcel talked about, is that it's an older property. But that doesn't scare me at all, because that's a way to increase value easily. So I love stuff like that.
And that's I think that's the great thing about the Granite Tower guys is that they've worked on properties like this. They know, okay, this is the plumbing that was in there, and there's a good chance this will have to be redone or hasn't been redone, because that's could be one of the big sticklers. How is it heated? Is there a big boiler that heats up a whole bunch of units, and are those new? Are those used? Have they transferred them into separate units for each apartment? And so that's the experience that these guys bring to the table. Which again, they're also helping out with another one of our properties. They're taking over kind of the management. So they're super good people, and when you have experience like that, and we know there will be bumps in the road, right? There's always unforeseen things, bumps that obstacles you gotta get through. You gotta have confidence in the people that are running the deal. And again, those guys are awesome. We should have them on our podcast, Matt.
I'll get them on.
Let's do
that before. And I told Chris and Marcel the same, so it'd be good to have those guys. They got a lot of good information. But you're right. So what Blaine's talking about, he's talking about one of our investments that he and I are both in. It's called The Hub, and it's an apartment complex in Dallas. And The Hub was one that when we looked at the numbers, I mean, really, I thought that was just going to perform. And even when the interest rate started shooting up, it didn't scare me. I still
thought it's a fixed rate there. I think the Hub's fixed rate.
Right. So I still thought that we were going to end up pretty well and get distribution. Well, I haven't had a distribution in any of my apartment investments yet. And I'm not sure there's a lot of people that are the same. But when you analyze the deal, the distribution is just part of the overall example of what you're going to get at the return at the end of the deal in itself. So instead of getting distributions, it's just all going to come at the end. I believe all these properties, when they hit here in the next 1 to 2 years, Blaine, we're going to see every bit of money that we invested. I just believe the return is going to hit at a great time in the market where people are going to come out of the fear space and are going to come into this. What happened in the hub is we had some managerial issues, and Mike and Dan stepped up and said they would be the asset managing partners and move into a different role. The other people agreed to step down from that particular role because they've been tied up and busy, I think is what ended up happening. So as they've already come in, we're starting to see some change in the numbers because they brought in their own management team. The management team that was there before wasn't doing good. I totally understand what that's like because the other property I was going to tell you about is our property in San Antonio.
Yeah.
La Villa de Oro. And that's what a great advantage to bring to a community as well. But our management team has been in there, and there's been so much flux in the management team. This one, the mother died, she was with us, and then she left. They brought a new one in, and something happened, and she left. So we have zero continuity in the management team that's supposed to be providing the help for this complex. As a result, occupancy is down. Occupancy is down. We're down at like 89, 91%. And it's fluctuating, and we need to be above 91% for at least 3 months for the lenders to say, oh, okay, now we can talk refi. So
yeah, which is a plan.
It's a numbers game. And what's really interesting that I've learned in this step is the guy that represented the property before we bought it misrepresented the occupancy. So even if you weren't paying, you were considered the apartment complex was occupied. So it showed that it had an occupancy rate of 96% or something
96, like I think it was, yeah.
And they didn't catch it. They didn't catch it. And he was falsifying the information. So by the time we got to the real numbers, when it had been sold and he left, he was pulling the wool over everybody's eyes and, being kind of a chode in the whole deal and misrepresenting business. So here we are picking up an asset that wasn't really classified as the asset that we bought. So now we've been fighting that occupancy rate from the beginning because I don't know if y'all know this. I don't know if we mentioned this before, but there's videos and stuff out there that teach people how to skip out on paying their rent. Like legally, how to skip out and continue and go to the next one. And I think that's baffling. Like, let's teach people how to rob other people. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and believe it or not, there's honest people that are trying to make a living handling these apartment complexes, doing things like this. And those are the people so that's had a big effect in San Antonio. And so now what we're doing is if somebody is, this is what we just talked about in our last meeting was, now if you don't pay your rent and it's not on time, Wi-Fi gets shut off because we control the Wi-Fi in the building. So your Wi-Fi gets shut off. Not many people can do things without Wi-Fi. So either you're going to pay up or you're going to get out. And either way, if you're not paying your bill, one of those things has to happen, but you're not going to continue to live under the roof and not pay your rent. You've got to do something about that. You got to be responsible. So that's the first thing. Now that may seem counterintuitive, right? Like I would think, why haven't we been doing that the whole time? Because we should have been doing something the whole time. Well, we thought we were, but the management team that was going in and out and in and out, we had no consistency in any of it. So now we've got a hold of it. We've got our awesome asset manager, Kim Faucher. She's on the show several times. She's a beast and she's on top of it, man. She's like fighting the management team. She watches every little thing. She's on a phone call. So she's like a bulldog. And the rest of our team at VDO, everybody wants to help. And at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to, she's, I mean,
I can't improve on this.
For what we're doing right now,
we
would probably screw things up. Let's not. Let's let her continue course. And then when she needs us, she'll let us know. So that's kind of where we were proceeding with that particular instance. But again, it's an occupancy thing. And I think we're experiencing that across the board.
There's let me interrupt here a little bit because I was looking at a deal in Houston this last week. It's a northern suburb of Houston. And I'm like, this might be kind of nice. And it's a newer deal, 2010, and occupancy is 96%. And I'm like, hey, this is interesting. And, they must be having to sell for whatever reason. I don't know. They're actually there. It's a listen to this loan. This loan, they got the loan 3 years ago. They bought it. 35-year amortization, a 35-year loan. So there, I don't think I've seen that. It's like full.
35-year.
They amortize it over 35 years, and the loan is 35 years. I mean, most of these loans, you know, it's like 5 years, and then you have to
7
refi
years.
or sell or something because the loan term is up. They got a 35-year loan on this at
Is it very-
2.5%.
What's the rate?
2.5%. Yeah. I'm like, what? So I'm thinking, and loan assumption. This might be kind of cool. Anyway, so I'm looking at this. Occupancy is 96%. So I'm going through the rent roll and just kind of looking at what people are, you know, getting charged for rents and where they're at, what they're up to. And I look over and it says, and one column says balance. And so you're looking at, I think the monthly rent is around 120,000. You know, if you combine everything, let's say it's 120,000 for all the rents. The balance over on the right column was $40,000. I'm like, so that means out of the whole place, they're not collecting this rent. Why is there so much balance over here? What's the deal with that? I'm like, that's like a third of the frickin' people are not paying on time. I'm like, that's an issue. But that could be a good issue if you come over and take over. And as you say, Matt, you put in steps to say, hey, you know, we're going to provide a great place, but you got to pay your rent on time. I mean, it's just, and so, you know, I think there's a lot of potential in that, but I was like, holy cow, that's crazy that a third of the rent is late in that whole apartment complex.
And if it's 96% occupied, that means that it's pretty full. There's people looking on a regular basis coming into the complex, wanting to get in there. Certainly you could look at that if there's been some sign, you know, coming in to take a look at the apartments or whatnot. But at 96%,
but you're only getting 60% of the rent.
What I'm thinking
is that
maybe it's a situation where, and I've seen this happen in a couple complexes where, you know, mom and pop Jones that own the complex, and since they built it, they go around door to door and they're collecting their rent from their patrons. And, you know, so-and-so says, I don't have it. You know, well, I'll come back next week and, you know, take your time. Maybe that's it, but I can't imagine a property that was built in, what'd you say, 2012?
2010.
Yeah. I can't imagine that they're doing that.
But
how many units?
God, I knew you were going to ask me that. I can't. 150. I think 150-ish, 152 or something like that.
You got me.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. So I was asking a few people if they knew about the area in Houston and what it was like, because I don't know much about Houston. You know, I wondered if it gotten beat up by the current or the most recent hurricane that rolled in.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there could have some damage from that. I don't know, but I'll have to see if so I got feelers out, see if anybody knows anything about the area and what's going on there. But the city is Mount Bellevue.
Okay.
Belvieu. So it's almost like an eastern suburb, I guess. It's not really, it's a little bit north, but mostly east. So
I don't know that area either, but that's strange. That whole thing, something doesn't add up in that. I mean,
there's something weird going on there.
You're paying attention to these deals and you're putting your underwriting, like we taught you a couple podcasts ago, and we've taught you several times through, just simple napkin test, that kind of thing. If you simple napkin test a apartment like this and realize the interest rate that they're paying and it's fixed over 30, I mean, how do you assume a note for that low of an interest rate? Either the complex has to be falling apart, it's in a crappy part of town, or the management's going to crap. And if you can turn any of those things around that you have control over, management, then you got to believe that you can turn the property around. So I can't believe that there would be that kind of a payment issue. Something's going on there. It's weird.
Yeah, I know. I think the like the median household income around there was something like 130,000. So I mean, it's pretty darn high.
Yeah.
Housing houses are 500,000 on average, and that kind of stuff from what I could see. So it seems to be a very nice area. So I don't know. That's one thing I probably should call a broker and go, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah, talk to me.
But
Like, you know, one of the things that I will add to this that I think is important for guys and gals out there to know is sometimes when you're handling this, like Blaine said, I'll call the broker. You're not calling the broker and just asking them the simple stuff that you normally ask. You know, like, oh, what's the cap rate and how many units is it and how old is it? You want to ask stuff to the broker like, what's wrong with it? Like,
yeah,
would you buy this property? What else you got in stock? What other properties you got? Because that's how you're going to find out things about. Well, the broker may come through and go, well, I don't have any others, but there's a couple listed from my colleagues. One of them's called this, and this on the east side of Houston. One's called this, and this in San Antonio. You know what you do? You write down those properties and find out who the broker is. Do the same thing. Hey, what's going on? Just tell me about this property. Why would I buy it? Why would I not buy it? What other stuff's going on around there? You got any other properties I can look at? Because this is how you're going to find names, meet more contacts. You got to be, and that's something I think Cardone is taught more than Sumrok, is just to be a little bit more bold. Don't just ask your generic questions. You want to have answers to that. But you're going to find all that out on the little OM performer that they're sending out. That that's just what do we call that? That's
their advertisement.
Yeah, it's well, I can't think of the propaganda. It's property propaganda. It's what I want you to know about the complex. You got to dig deeper if you want to.
It's all good.
Yeah. It's all good till you dig in, right? And that's where you got to learn how to dig in just a little bit, and that's what we're trying to teach you here with some of the little things that we're going through. So awesome, man. I'm interested to hear that. Maybe we can throw that deal on we can run it through.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'll this next week if I find the time, I'll see if I can contact somebody more about that. What's happening down there?
Some info. Let's run it through. Run it through our analyzer.
Yes.
And let's do we do it on a napkin or we do it on toilet paper? I don't know. Which one is
it? Usually a napkin, sometimes paper towel.
A paper towel. Okay. Kleenex?
Yeah.
Kleenex is not good.
No, you can't do that. Unless you have a felt tip pen on Kleenex.
But it just is it's like one big word that's all outside that.
Especially after you blow your nose on it.
Anyway.
Any other info on the updates that you wanted to talk about? You said a little bit about VDO, and we talked a little bit about the hub.
Yeah, well, VDO,
you talked about Cricks Creek, so
yeah, VDO is. That's what I told you. We're having an occupancy issue, and part of that is because people are skipping. So we're trying to hammer down on that right now. We're eliminating people that aren't paying. We're starting to implement some kind of a penalty. We're shutting off Wi-Fi, and if that doesn't work, then they're out. We're going to contact them, and we got to move them on. The difficulty that I guess some people don't understand when it comes to occupancy is eviction's not just, hey, show up and knock on the door and say, hey,
you got to go.
You're out next week. Well, there's a whole legal system supporting, as you can imagine, the tenant, not even the business owner, much like there is in business. You look at these. I'm just thinking right away. It was like California. Hey, you can do $10,000 worth of theft. You can do $9,999, but not 10,000. And you're not supposed to touch these people. They're walking out with a cart full of groceries, and you're not supposed to touch them. You're not supposed to stop them. And because then they're going to turn around, they're going to sue you, and they'll probably win because the laws are set up to support the criminals. They're not set up to support the people that are doing right by everybody else.
The business owners, and yeah.
So here it's the same thing. You've got apartment owners that are doing the best for these communities and these people, and there's always a few that take advantage of the system, and they find a way to just prolong. They get evicted, and it takes 2 months, 2.5 months to get them officially evicted. Well, now you've got an apartment that's sitting there you can do nothing with, so your occupancy is going down because you can't even bring somebody in to look at it. So it's very challenging when it comes to dealing with people. We've always known that, Blaine, and in the world of dentistry, dealing with people is the hardest part of our profession. It's not teeth. It's not drilling the teeth or taking the teeth out or any of that. It's dealing with the person that has the teeth in their mouth. You know what I mean?
That's typically scared.
Yeah. much like some people that are wanting to invest now. So, hey, so get out of the fear, people. Stop the fear, get involved, ask the right questions. If it looks like it's uh gonna hunt, if the dog's gonna hunt, then man, jump in the fight and go on the hunt. It's not a time to lay back. If you're gonna lay back, then you might as well lay back. How long are you gonna wait? A year? 8 months?
There's always going to be something that's going to cause the fear, right? And you got to get over it. If it's not the election, then it's the potential looming recession and it's potential inflation, or it's going to be the war with Russia and Ukraine,
Yep.
or the I think there's a solar eclipse coming up. We better wait on this, make sure that solar eclipse is okay, and you can always find something that can cause you to hesitate and not move forward, and that's probably riskier than doing anything at all. I mean, just not doing anything is riskier than doing something because you're
Most of
missing
the
out on a
time.
lot.
Most of the time, people. That's why if it's time to jump, sometimes you got to take that first step and for sure take the second step to move forward. So I'd encourage everybody to get out there, underwrite some deals, have some friends underwrite some deals, evaluate those for yourself. And if you're capable of getting in, you have liquidity to be able to do that, then it's time. The time is now because the purchasing of these particular complexes is coming due and it's looking very favorable for the groups that are coming in and able to buy. So with that, I'm not going to give any more updates. Maybe I'll have some for you next
Right
time.
on.
I
No,
think
that's enough. That's enough.
it's good information. I think
Okay.
it's certainly pertinent to what's happened in the market. Certainly pertinent to the 3 properties that we mentioned for sure. But we're starting to trend up, and VDO is starting to trend up. The hub is starting to trend up, and obviously we're closing down on the end of Cooks Creek, which is looking, in my opinion, fabulous. I'm really excited about it. Next time out there, I might even fly out there sometime soon, check it out. I'm excited to go see the property because I haven't been in there in person to see it yet. So, but excited to do so.
Sweet.
Oh, what do you got
Nice.
coming? You got something coming up, right?
Who, me?
Hey, you're going to a meeting. What's the meeting you're going to?
Oh yeah, real quick. I'm doing it's a physician conference on what physicians can do other than practice because we talk about burnout. We've talked about that before
You can
in
start a
dentistry. Well,
podcast called Happy Trails Podcast.
physicians do the same thing. I mean, they get some burnout going on, and they're like, "Hey, I still need to make money. Is there something I can do other than clinical stuff?" And so this goes in this conference talks about all the different things, different ways you can make money. Um, and some of it's doing surveys or working on research, and they got all sorts of stuff like this, and real estate's one of them, right? I mean, so I'm gonna go see if I can talk to a bunch of physicians and then show them a little bit about real estate and teach them. Maybe they'll come on and invest.
Cool, man. I'm excited to hear about that.
So it'll be fun. Yeah, it's the end of August. I don't even remember.
I bet what you're gonna hear. Oh, it's the end of August. I thought it was sooner.
I can't remember. No,
I bet what you're gonna hear, Blaine, is you need to invest.
Probably.
Kind of like what we've been saying. It's what we're saying right now is
That's
sidelines, people. It's time to jump. Be cautious. Be wary. I'm not saying just throw your money out into the wind. I mean, again, and one of the greatest things that we heard was I heard Sumrok talking about the Wall Street Journal article and talking about the students, and he said it again. We say every single time, before you invest money with anybody, you have to know, like, and trust somebody that's in that managerial position and in that group. So you might not know who all the general partners are, but you might know 2 of the main people. You might know somebody that's the co-GP, like myself, that's bringing people to the equation. And if you know, like, and trust who I am, you know that I'm not going to lead you astray. I'm going to give you the information. I'm going to arm you with the tools and the experience of what we have behind the backing of what I've done for the last 3 years. And I'm bringing that to the table with my own money. So I have my own money in this deal. And all I'm saying is you have an opportunity to make money. It's up to you. I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. And I'm by no means the guy that's going to offer you the financial advice, because I'm not in that capacity to be able to do so. But I will tell you, I believe, looking at everything I've been taught and everything I know and listening to all the people that have acquired the majority of the wealth that I've noticed in my life, the time to get involved is right now. So I think you'd almost be foolish not to if you have the liquidity to do it. Yeah?
Peace out, brother. Peace out.
Mic drop. I got nothing else for you on that. But
Yeah, that's
hey,
that's
until
good.
next
That's
time,
good stuff.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Happy trails,
Thanks for
everybody.
joining us. Yep.
Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song.